Call this November 5th Essex County Board of Supervisors work session to order. April, you do a roll call, please.
Chairman Akers.
Present.
Vice Chairman Gill. Supervisor Johnson.
Here.
Supervisor Magruder.
Present.
Supervisor Smith.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Perfect, thank you.
Gentlemen.
Up on our agenda first, we're going to hear from our delegate, Keith Hodges. Congratulations on the General Assembly update.
Oh, well, gosh, that was quick. Thank you all so much. I think I have some notes here somewhere, although I don't use them most of the time. But first, I want to thank each and every one of you, what you do each day. This is where the rubber meets the road, and what our localities do. I mean, it's a tough job. Honestly, people say, how do you handle it in Richmond? But what y'all do each day, it is a very tough job, and the decisions you make, it's not across party lines. It's about what works best for the locality. So I can't thank you enough. I know you've had your challenges here locally, like many of the areas across the state. You're dealing with a number of issues in schools. It was great to see the joint meeting between the school board and the supervisors, and to have that dialogue is, that's what makes it work. That's what makes it work. Sorry I couldn't be here for that. I was supposed to be on the agenda, but I think it probably worked best for you. Otherwise, you would have been here till 1 o'clock in the morning. So first, Mr. Chairman, how long do I have? I mean, is it just open dialogue? I know
We don't have a...
Bud will tell me I can talk.
We'll give you 5, which means you can take 15.
Okay. It's going to be longer than that. It's going to be longer than that, Mr. Chairman. But first, thank you so much. You know, I always like to go around to our localities, and it's a little late, but, you know, at least give them an update on last session and what we're looking, you know, towards this session. Of course, every session is different. I've been there since 2012, and they're completely different. And if you remember what we were looking at this past session, if you remember, we were dealing with water. And we had no water in the General Assembly. Richmond had no water, so it set us behind. And there was really, what really concerns me, Mr. Chairman and members, that it concerns me that there was no real motive or really passion to move forward and get our work done. We had hundreds of bills that were actually never heard in committee, and that concerns me. I'm a firm believer that every bill should be heard. It should go through the process, that germaneness matters, and any amendment to a bill should be germane to the original intent of the bill, and that, as Thomas Jefferson said, we need to go back and be cleansed by our people to know what they want. And I do believe if we did those things in Washington, that we would be much better served across our nation. And I will tell anyone that. But thank you for what you do. Of course, we had approximately 3,500 bills and resolutions that were introduced, like we always do. And of course, it was not a budget year, but we did, of course, amend our 2-year budget. So even though it's a 45-day session instead of a 60-day session, which is budget year, it's still just as busy. It's actually busier because we have to make those amendments because we're looking at our revenues and changing our budget and looking towards the future. And that really, between our budget and appointing judges, those really are 2 most important things that we do besides just passing bill. Of course, no budget is perfect. Don't agree with everything in it. If you look at our budget, it's that thick. I mean, we're dealing with billions of billions. What is it, $180 billion, I believe. About $117 billion of that is non-general fund, which is basically federal dollars that are filtered through, go back to our localities and the different programs through the federal government. The rest is from our general revenues. But it's not perfect, but in the end, I think we did the best that we could with the circumstances. And one thing that we did was we did provide some tax relief for the citizens of the Commonwealth. And in doing that, we had, I believe it was $200 rebate for individuals, $400 for joint filing, which, you know, people look and they say, well, that's not a lot of money, but the one thing we did was change the standardized, the deduction and increase that. And in the long term, that really puts people in a good place, and it puts money into people's pockets long-term to save them money across the Commonwealth. And I do think that is very important and something that's often forgotten. And, you know, increasing that, I believe it was $8,500 for individual and, what, $17,000 or so for joint filers. But I think that's what's going to put people, you know, in a good position in the long run and put money in their pockets. Of course, education remains a top priority. And we made significant investments in education, increasing our funding. And there's been an effort on both sides of the aisle to do this, and we are now in a position now, we have increased funding tremendously, way before the COVID and the learning loss and so forth, and increased that amount significantly across the board, and to help our localities and to help our children, especially with this learning loss. And while we're talking about education, this is one of the #1 problems that we have, you know, in our schools and in society. No one can make a decision unless they can call someone, text someone, or email someone. And kids, you know, are addicted to cell phones and social media. And, you know, to tell you honestly, that's not how you learn, Mr. Chairman. It's by everyday experiences and then, again, personal responsibility. And that's what we need to really focus on. Of course, I had tried legislation before to curb that, and it was shot down, but we were able to get something through this past session to limit the number of hours that our children, I believe it's 16 and under, can be on social media without parental consent. And I think it's a step forward and start to curb some of the learning loss, but also the mental health problems that we're having, which are our localities in the Commonwealth and our nation is actually struggling with. So, of course, car tax is a big subject as well, and folks are pushing that. I think something's going to be coming, but the one thing that we have to look at is to keep our localities whole in doing that, because our localities can't be strapped with the responsibility of having that income loss, because you're already limited in how you can generate income here locally. So if we're going to do this, the state has to step up. You know, our budget and what we've done, we've been very, very conservative. Virginia's economy is very strong, and we're doing very, very well. We had, you know, of course, a very good budget surplus, as you probably saw. And we need to start investing back into our communities as we move forward. And I think that's very important, to take some of that surplus. And if we move forward with the car tax, we have the money to be able to do it. Even with everything going on in Washington, where everyone's looking at the big, beautiful bill, it has not affected Virginia the way everyone said. So the jobs that they said were going to be lost, that you heard through all of the elections and everything, it just wasn't there. And Virginia's economy is very strong. We're doing well. Mainly on the withholding tax has been very good for Virginia, and we're doing very well. And I think in the long run, I think our localities and the state, as long as we continue to operate the way we are operating on our appropriations committee that I serve on, I think we'll do very well. But for the most part, that committee, even Republicans and Democrats, we take a conservative approach. And I think that's very meaningful. Of course, Public Safety Initiative, Sheriff, thank you for what you do each and every day. I commend you. I don't know how you deal with it, but, you know, when you're, you know, out there and doing what you do, you're the guy, and I'm sorry to say, this is the guy that allows us to lay our heads on our pillows to sleep safe at night. And you do a great job, but thank you. Thank you for everything. Of course, public safety, that's non-negotiable for me. You know, our drug dealers need to be held accountable. We tried to do some things this year to hold them accountable, but we're going to continue to pursue that, because that's how we That's how we really get things done, because that's the root of our problems. Of course, we've made tremendous efforts in substance abuse and deaths with the opioids in the Commonwealth over the last 4 years, and hopefully we can continue to do that. But without our sheriffs and without the deputies here locally, that couldn't be possible. So thank you for everything. But public safety is non-negotiable for me. Of course, one thing I always like to talk about is preserving local authority. And you see it every day. And when you start to look at things like our solar initiatives, there was a push this past year. We were finally able to get the patron of that bill to pull it, but it would have given blanket authority for the state to have oversight of solar. That's not up to the state. It is up to you to be able to have that authority, because you know what's best for your locality. And, you know, that's only one of the things. The other would be, of course, you're dealing with these, you know, the dwelling units that would allow, and there was actually a push to allow the dwelling units to, you know, it would require, it actually would look at your setback requirements and dictate to you what those setback requirements are and so forth, and to be able to allow people to do things. Of course, it is personal property, but it would change who you are. You have zoning for a reason, and I think that is up to the locality to see what's best for them. Those are just two examples. The local authority is very, very important to me, and it's something I will continue to push on. So, of course, some of the things that I always like to look at, and I'm not going to focus a lot what's going on with the state, because, you know, we have what was in the past. We don't know what the future is going to hold with this past week and what the elections were yesterday. I just continue to do what I do each and every day and push for the Middle Peninsula and what's good here. Some of the things that I'd like to talk about, of course, you know, economic development is very important to me, and I've said it many, many times. 76% of our workforce in the entire Middle Peninsula, 6 counties, drives out of our district to work each and every day. Over 80% in Matthews, over 80%. And it leaves behind a workforce that works between 9 to 5, where we have the lowest wages in the state. Our largest employer is healthcare, and it's something I've been very focused on to bring those jobs here to the Middle Peninsula. I created a sonography program, which has been very successful with our hospitals to bring those jobs here, and the hospitals have been very pleased. We're working on a number of other initiatives to bring those healthcare jobs, but we need to start those in K-12 and to start to move forward and to move up, because those are the types of jobs that, you know, our children can grow up, they can live here, and they can earn a decent wage and stay here without breaking up families. And that's very important to me. I grew up next to my grandparents. I didn't know what store-bought jelly was until I was in college. I tell people that all the time. And that's true. And it's a way of life, but we're breaking up families, Mr. Chairman, and we need to at least give our children the opportunity to be here. So, of course, economic development is very important, and healthcare is one of the number one focuses for me to keep those jobs here. Of course, you've been dealing with the FEMA issues and so forth, which you're very well aware of, and I've been working with DCR. I'm getting off on a tangent. It just hit me in the head a second ago, but hopefully we'll have a model ordinance. They sent something back that I didn't like, and it was only focused on the state, so hopefully we'll have a model ordinance there, because, you know, if our localities are dinged, then everyone's flood insurance will go up across the board, and we don't want that. As far as what I am working on here, you know, of course, blue catfish and economic development is a big issue. People thought I was crazy. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. Bud says I'm crazy all the time. But, you know, you keep throwing crazy at a board, Mr. Chairman, and eventually something's going to stick and it's going to work. We were able to get our initial grant for $250,000. It shows preference here to the Middle Peninsula. I was able to increase that to now $500,000, and I'm going to continue to work on increase that funding. So that's for processing, flash freezing, get money down to the watermen. Because when you get up here to the, in Tappahannock, it's 75% of our fish biomass. They eat everything from shad to rockfish to clams to ducks, and even had a lady last week that saw a squirrel in one of them. So, and it's devastating. It's our #1 threat to the Chesapeake Bay. And we've got to find a way to stop that, create jobs and economic development. I'm working with our prison system now to have the flash freezing, the processing, send it to other states to sell it to other prison systems, and get it into our schools. And it's a way to kind of eat our way out of the problem and create jobs. And we're working on that very, very hard. And hopefully we'll have something in the upcoming budget to be able to do that. The dredging, although it doesn't affect Essex as much, but dredging is a big issue in the Middle Peninsula, Northern Neck and Eastern Shore, where we have hundreds of creeks that have been filling in over time. The federal government used to fund that through earmarks, and now they don't do that any longer. So we were able to move some money that from the Virginia Waterway Maintenance Program, $8 million, which we were able to establish over into a different pot to make it more easily accessible. And the beauty of that is we'll be able to dredge these creeks, and it will help our localities in the long run improve their property values, because for every 1 foot change in depth, where it gets shallower, there's a 14% decrease in property value. And that's a big impact on our localities. But in addition to that, I'll follow up, flooding and resiliency is a big issue here. And the dredging fits in with that. Because with the flooding and resiliency, our properties are being inundated with water. A Chesapeake Bay Act was passed years ago, but it dealt with water flowing downhill. It didn't deal with water coming up. So that needs to be changed, and things need to happen in that space. So we're working very hard to get this flooding and resiliency, I would call it an industrial park, where we now have 41 companies that want to do business here in Virginia, and many of them right here in the Middle Peninsula, that will create jobs for scientists, contractors, engineers, and to be able to bring them all together to solve this problem, not only for the Middle Peninsula and Virginia, but for the world. And dredging is one of those components, because we have a company that can use the dredge spoils to turn it into an aggregate material for construction, but they can also use it in living shorelines, where oysters will strike on that much better than they will on granite, which is traditionally used in living shorelines. And that's because of a bill that I passed a few years ago to be able to use this product. So we're working very hard to get that done, and we'll have some things in the upcoming session to really help deal with that and to offset that. One of the things, I would like to mention, I was telling Mr. Magruder a few minutes ago, it was kind of a brainstorm that I had just 2 weeks ago, where I've been working on bringing advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing to Virginia. We are geared to have the pharmaceutical manufacturing here in the state. We have Lilly and Merck have recently located, but we have other companies as well. We have the VCU School, it's under the VCU School of Engineering, which is the Medicines for All program. They have a PhD in advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing. 85% of the generics are made overseas. 85%. We can bring those back to Virginia, decrease labor, have a quality product, and actually we have some of our government agencies are actually doing studies on some of these generics right now, and they're not seeing the outcomes that in patients that they really should see. And bringing that to Virginia can really help as far as jobs and economic development. Now, those jobs won't occur here. Those are going to be in our urban areas, face it. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the broadband, we don't have the water, we don't have the sewer. But how do we benefit rural Virginia? So in talking with someone, they said, and Mr. Magruder, you're really going to appreciate that. One of the things they look at when they locate to the United States, you're looking at the top 10 pharmaceutical manufacturers in the world is our carbon footprint. You don't realize that. And out of those top 10 manufacturers, I believe it's 121 million metric tons that they produce a year, with 71 million of that, in the U.S., which is mainly in our supply side. How do you offset that, and what do you do? And we worked on that Healthy Watershed program with the carbon that's sequestered in our trees. We're working on it on oysters now, too. So we have the carbon credits for oysters. Now, this is not RGGI. If you're familiar with RGGI, which is a cap-and-trade model that deals with limiting the amount of carbon that's going into the environment from our coal-powered plants, has nothing to do with that. This is a free market, totally free market, because RGGI does not allow for nature-based credits to be traded. These are nature-based credits, which we have. And we have billions of dollars in that right now. So what I'm looking at right now, and I just had a call with someone, and I talked to Mr. Gruder just a few minutes ago, we're moving forward to I want to create a fund in Virginia that will allow for the carbon credits, which is a free market, Virginia to retain part of that to incentivize companies to come to Virginia. But at the same time, you're lowering that carbon footprint tremendously. We have more than enough carbon between our trees, and what this is going to do to oysters, we're looking at billions of dollars in oysters in cleaning the Chesapeake Bay, billions. And we can do that. So I might be a little bit crazy, Mr. Chairman, but I think we're going to make this work. But the beauty of this is it's going to create jobs in our urban areas. In pharmaceutical manufacturing, they're not going to locate here. But what it will do, it will filter down those dollars to us, because those urban areas need us to be able to do this. And we're looking at a tremendous amount of money on the table that will come to landowners, to localities, and really help us, because those urban areas need us. So that's kind of where I am and working on that right now. A couple other things. I don't know, it doesn't mean a lot. We do have a number of commuters going down to Gloucester and actually to the shipyard. We were able to get the toll off the Coleman Bridge, because does Newton bus still run from up here down the shipyard every day? So, we're looking at that. We've got the Norris Bridge, which was accelerated by a number of years. We were able, in working with the Secretary of Transportation, to get that built. I was able this past session to get some guidance, at least into legislation for our health departments, to how to get to yes, because that's our problem. Even though you have the governor and you have the agency heads, by the time it filters down, how do you get to yes on permitting for septic? How do you get to permitting on wells and so forth? So this will issue guidance to our localities on how to get to yes. One of the things that I also looked at was our research universities. VIMS does phenomenal work, but they make many of their decisions on feelings, and permitting and getting things through is a challenge. So I'm trying to get that changed, because VIMS is our scientific advisor for flooding and resiliency, which will help folks. Also looked at, and this will actually come up again this session because we have to pass it twice. Long story. But, many of our universities and with our children make decisions behind the scenes, unlike you. Everything's live streamed. You probably archive everything, too. Our universities should be able to do the same thing, because too many decisions are made behind closed doors. DMV Select has been a problem across the state, where our localities have been losing money with that program. So it gives a review of the DMV Select program and trying to make that whole for our localities. But, the number one thing, Mr. Chairman, is bureaucracy. Drives me absolutely crazy. And getting through the bureaucracy is the biggest challenge for me. That, and getting folks to understand our region. And you kind of saw that in elections yesterday. I'm not going to get into the elections, but people think that food comes from a grocery store. They don't know where food comes from. They don't know how it's grown. And that's a big challenge. They don't understand our challenges here. They don't understand our opportunities. And it's not only educating the urban areas, but it's also educating other rural areas of the state, because we're divided into 4 distinct regions with rural. We have the valley, which has the advanced manufacturing. We have our coal region, of course, with the coal. We have the tobacco region. They have the tobacco commission. And then you have rural coastal. And if you take all of the state and federal programs and lay them on a map for economic development, we're left out. And one of the biggest reasons is because we're considered fully employed, because our folks are driving out of the district every day. And we don't have that business tax. So we need to look at ways to generate a business tax here at a local level, create economic activity in a different way. So that's kind of the way I look at things, and we're working on it. I can keep talking all night, but I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman. And if y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Keith. A couple of things regarding schools. Right now, we have a challenge with some of our private day placements,
Sure.
where students with IEPs are sent to other schools. The cap was eliminated. That was a 3% increase every year. It was basically lifted at COVID. And we're paying an astronomical amount of money for just 20 students, about $1.6 million. And unfortunately, what that also affects is our ADM, because those students go to those outside day placements. We're losing those in enrollment, which
Right.
also loses us funding for
Sure.
those students that we're already paying for. Is there anything that can be done or brought up in any kind of legislation that would help address that?
It can be, and that would primarily, Mr. Chairman, if I may, primarily work through the budget and funding. Of course, composite index is a huge challenge.
Right.
And we've looked at that in many different ways. And as far as daycare, we'll have to look at that and maybe look at some funding mechanisms. But as far as addressing the composite index, they're going to be 50% winners and 50% losers in that. And it's a challenge because Northern Virginia is driving that, and they're going to be the biggest losers, unfortunately. So there may be some ways, and I'll be glad to work with you to come up with some budget language
And mine was
and
not necessarily.
what those dollars would be.
And mine was not necessarily daycare, it's the outside, it's the private day schools.
Yeah, the private day schools, I'm
That
sorry,
we're
not
sitting,
daycare.
yeah, so we're paying school in Northern Virginia to take our kids, and we're getting
Right.
penalized by not getting the state funding as a result of
Right.
sending them to another locality.
Yeah.
Which is a challenge for us.
And it's a challenge, you don't have the enrollment, so you're not getting the dollars from the state that you typically would get.
But we're
because-
still
and
having to
they're
pay,
somewhere
but
else.
we're having to pay it out at a
And you-
higher rate
right.
somewhere else.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I'll be glad to work with you on some budget language. That would go through the budget, but I'll be
Okay.
glad to work with you to try to be able to come up with some language to introduce, to address that.
That'd be great. The other question I had, and I know you're familiar with this, and you talked about the dredging, which I appreciate because I think that's important. What about are there any updates on what's happening with the above-ground septics?
Right now, that's moving forward. We have 2 of those. I didn't bring that up, and I apologize, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 of those in the Middle Peninsula right now. We're working to get the nitrogen and phosphorus load down. So once we get there, and if you recall, we have 2 prototype systems here in the Middle Peninsula that I was able to receive funding for to design, maintain, study, and be able to get the costs down. I think we can get the cost down pretty close to a conventional system. And basically, when you're doing that, you're taking VDH out of the picture because you'll just need a variance from the county to be able to do that. So we're looking at getting the nitrogen and phosphorus loads down right now. And if I may follow up that, while it's on my mind, Mr. Chairman, just another subject.
Yeah.
Had another brainstorm as well. Phragmites, y'all are all familiar with that? Invasive grass?
Yeah.
People don't realize, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of that here in the Middle Peninsula. Thousands. So I started to do some research. It was after a football game one night, and I said, I've been thinking about this too long, so I started to really do some research. 1,000 acres of Phragmites, of course, it sucks up the nitrogen and phosphorus like nothing else, but it dies and it goes back into the bay. How do you remove it? Well, you can harvest it. And 1,000 acres generates enough biomass material to power 2,000 homes a year. 2,000 homes. So we actually, one of those companies in our flooding and resilience plan, we have a company that can take in the nutrients, the carbon, the phosphorus, and nitrogen, they're saying they can capture that. So just imagine if we could do that. But then you're looking at data centers, and data centers, of course, is a big concern, and water is one of the biggest concerns, and of course, pulling power off the grid. So imagine if you could put one of these facilities in, you actually have data centers now that you can put in the middle of nowhere, and they're about the size of a tractor trailer. They pull no water. All of the cooling is internal. It costs a little bit more, but then you have the electricity to generate for them. Plus, say, maybe this flooding and resilience industrial park. Imagine what you could do then, and the dollars that would come into the localities without anyone knowing it's there, and it's not affecting the cooling, and it's not pulling any of the energy off of the grid. So that's just one of my crazy ideas, and getting a little bit of traction on that, but
Perfect.
wanted to bring it up.
Appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
Board Member Sidney?
Several years ago, Governor Youngkin spent a lot of time on the J-Law study. And from that study, realized that the state was underfunding education in the state of Virginia. And then it died. And basically, but my question is, you mentioned that the car tax, that the state is in a financial posture that can support that on a long term. Now, my question is, if there are funds there to do that, and with the mental illness, and with the underfunding of our state schools, public schools, I have a concern that we can do it for the car tax, but we can't do it for our educational system or our mental illness issues.
Sure, and I've got to look back, I've got stuff scribbled everywhere, but thing is, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, we have stepped up our educational funding tremendously, and I believe it was a 53% increase per pupil at the local level, and I've got to look at that, and it's written down here somewhere, but we've really stepped up our education funding, and in this last budget, we really did that. We didn't do the car tax, but we focused on education and increased our funding tremendously to the highest levels it's ever been in the Commonwealth and per pupil, and I believe it was 53% increase just at the local level. Let me see, it's written down here somewhere. But we have focused on education. So that was a number of years ago, the study that you looked at, that we're underfunding, but we've stepped up, within appropriations to fix that. So we've been getting to that level, and, I've got to look at where we are right now, and I thought I had it written down here somewhere. But, at the local level, there needs to be a balance there. You have to have the increase in the education, which we've been working on, but at the same time, the car tax is the most hated tax in Virginia. And if that goes away, the localities need to be whole in that.
Well, I don't have a problem with eliminating the tax. My concern was, you made the comment that the Commonwealth was financially situated where it could deal with eliminating.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I don't have a problem with eliminating the car tax. I think everybody would benefit from that. Nobody wouldn't question that. I wouldn't for sure, and I don't think anybody in this room would do so. But my question is, you made a comment to the point where the Commonwealth, it is financially strong,
Sure.
where it could financially support this, eliminate this car tax long-term. And that created a concern in my mind with the concerns we have, the lack of funding for the education, lack of funding for mental illness. How can we support?
Well, and I look at that, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, I look at that in two different pathways. The car tax, of course, is a local tax. So if that goes away, you need to be able to be whole, to be able to support your education, support your programs here. As far as mental illness, and believe me, I serve on the Virginia Healthcare Workforce Development Authority. You can talk to the sheriff, mental illness it's a crisis. It's a crisis, and what spiked it, number one, we need to get down to the cause of it, which we're working on, and being a healthcare provider, we need to get down to the cause and stop it. But we also need to invest in that too. But at the same time, we've also increased our education funding tremendously over the last 4 years to be able to, since that JLARC study, we've increased our educational funding tremendously. I thought I had that number written down, but I think it's like a 53% increase per pupil that goes down directly, to the funding at the local level. That's a big increase since COVID. That's a huge increase since COVID. So we are making investments in education. We're doing that, and we need to recognize that, but at the same time, we also have to balance the car tax. We need to balance all of those other things as well. So you can't just focus on one. We need to focus on all of them.
To piggyback on Supervisor Johnson's comment, and I agree that there has been more of an investment in education. Unfortunately, what we've seen is, as we continue to have a decline in enrollment because of birth rates, homeschooling, private schools, and all those things, it's maybe keeping it a little bit balanced, but you're not really seeing an incentive for
Right.
greater funding. And I know there's legislation being trying to be passed that would incentivize, parents to homeschool, to present your tax credits for college, tuition later on. Any thoughts on where that might go? Because it's almost,
It's not going, with the elections and things, it's not going anywhere. So we'll kind of
Correct.
keep it at that. But, parents still need to be able to make a choice what's best for their children in the long run. And I do believe that, but we also need to invest in our local public education at the same time.
but
Really don't have
Where's that
anything.
number?
Keith, you started a initiative to conserve or slow down the harvesting of the bunkers in the Chesapeake Bay. Has that just gone away? I see the Chesapeake
Well,
Bay. is
that
hurting
goes
because
back
of
to
it.
the blue catfish. That doesn't go back to the omega. It goes back to the blue catfish. And when you look at the blue catfish, they eat the peanut bunkers, which spend the first 2 years of their life right out here on the Rappahannock River. They eat enough of those peanut bunkers to prevent 1 million tons from reaching adult size a year. 1 million tons. Omega pole's at 58,000 tons. So if we curb the blue catfish, we're gonna solve the problem. And that's my main focus right now. But have that balance, but we've got to be able to get there, and we need more money to do it. Unfortunately, we only got $250,000, they asked for $4 million. But we can put this on steroids. We need to increase the number of shot permits. We're only at 3 right now. And my great-grandfather called it cranking. He'd take an old telephone, and he'd drop the leads in and crank the telephone, and the fish would come up to the top. They called it cranking. But that's basically what you do with shocking them. So we have the studies. It doesn't harm the fish. The fish come up to the top. You get what you need to eat. You take it, you sell it, you process it, flash freeze it, get them out of there. So I think that's how we really get to the root of the problem, because that's 1 million tons, and no one has been able to refute that. And everyone so far has said that's absolutely 100% correct. And it's probably more than that. Anytime you get something that they only eat, they eat everything. They don't eat oysters, they eat clams, they eat anything out there, they eat themselves. So they're top of the food chain, so we need to curb that. And, when you get out here and it's 75% of the fish biomass, that's a big problem. So we need to get down to the root of that problem.
John?
Couple of quick questions, Delegate Hodges. We have aging schools, we have construction needs, we have renovation needs and everything else. I know they've been talking about the meals tax There are several counties that are allowed to. We're a Dillon Rule state. Will this be granted for other localities? Because we are in desperate need to generate some construction funds, and if we can tax those visitors who come through and buy our food here and keep going and help rebuild our schools, that would be a plus for this community.
So I think you're referring to the sales tax, a 1% sales tax, not necessarily a meals tax, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, because we were able to get that on, and there are only, 2 localities of Virginia that can do that now. Gloucester was one of them because they had come and we requested that. I worked with Senator Norman. Then you left it up to people to pass the referendum to see if they wanted to invest in their community for education. It was up to the people to make that decision. So that's actually a 1% sales tax increase, and once, that loan and the bonds are paid off, it goes away.
That's fine.
So I'm fine with that because you know what? It allows the people to decide that.
Exactly.
It's not the General Assembly saying, this is the tax, but I think there may be an appetite moving forward to do that. And I'm fine with that because it's
Be a
up
big
to the
help.
people. And I just finished a tour just 2 weeks ago in Gloucester of the renovation. And it's incredible what they were able to generate. And the beauty of this is, it's not only bricks and mortar, but purchases online now are supposed to be paid back to the localities. Am I correct on that? And how are y'all doing with that? So the thing is purchases online, which everyone is doing, that sales tax should be coming back to the locality. So it's up to the people to decide, and I'm okay with that. So we'll see what happens in this upcoming session regarding that. But
That
I'm
would be a big
perfectly
help to
okay
us.
with it. I voted for it before. We were able to get it through for Gloucester and one other locality. And fine, because it's up to the people at that point to decide, which is how it should work. And it really paid off very well for Gloucester.
The other big thing, I guess, is that Essex County is preparing for the federal cuts that are coming in 2026. It's going to affect social services, going to affect school funding, library funding. But the big thing that's catching me is this error rate. Essex County has a 0% error rate at social services. The other counties don't have that and are above the 6% threshold the feds are requiring to get the funding. I don't think it's fair that counties that are within the 6% or even better at 0%, we're gonna get dinged because of other counties not pulling their weight. And I don't know what the state is thinking with these cuts coming down. Are they going to help fund for these losses? Are they going to pass these down to these programs that are mandated? They're going to push those budget monies down to the local level? Bottom line, we can't afford it.
Sure.
And so, but we either need some help or we need to at least be fair that we're not going to be dinged for our good fiscal management while other counties aren't.
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, there's still a lot of unknowns with this. We've had some briefings on the Appropriations Committee dealing with this. And the one thing we are committed to doing is keeping everyone whole as we move through this process. But there are still a lot of unknowns even at the federal level. Most of what you're talking about is the feds, but then the state's going to have to fill that, and it's going to filter down to the localities. So as we move forward with our budget, those are going to be the discussions that we're going to have. And those are some of the discussions that we've had in our appropriations meeting so far. But there's still a lot of unknowns and what the dollars are going to be and where we're going to appropriate certain funds to be able to make that happen.
Either give us some tools so we can generate revenue,
Right.
or
Well, I'm working on the
Don't-
revenue side. Some of
I
them may be a little
appreciate
bit different,
I
but,
appreciate you.
but we're trying to get you that business tax base,
That would
which
be
is what
great.
you need because we don't have it here.
Right.
And you've got to be able to do that to support your local government. So some of the things that I'm doing is, they're a little bit different, but it fits in with who we are.
That's right.
And, just dealing with the carbon, we're looking at quite a bit of money that can come down. So people think I'm crazy a little bit, but,
Thank you, Chairman, that's all I have.
so,
April, do you have anything? Other comments? Perfect. Keith,
I
appreciate
do
it.
have
Go
one
ahead.
comment, if I could. Be a little tough. You got two guys on this board. And Sydney, thank you for your service, what you've done, and since I've come on board. Bud, great friend, mentor. Mean a lot to me. I love you to death. We're gonna miss both of you. But thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Here.
We're definitely gonna miss you. But I know we'll be in touch. We'll be talking. We talk all the time anyway. But I appreciate all of that. You know, all that you've done, and both of you have done. And Bud was one of the first guys I called when I ran. He said, "You're crazy as hell." And you know that came out of his mouth. You could know that came out of his mouth. But it's been a pleasure and it's been an honor to work with all of you. And I appreciate all you've done. So thank you both, and thank all of you for what you do.
Appreciate it, Keith.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, y'all have a good evening. What time is it?
I've got something.
I'm good. I got a conference call
Yeah.
coming up.
Well, Keith, I want to let you know, I really appreciate you in terms of your creativity of looking at what we have and treasuring what we have, you know, to a productive financial state. You know, you're not looking on a wish list, you're looking at what we actually have. And that has always impacted me in terms of your thoughtfulness and looking at treasuring our beauty. You know, we are unique from other areas, and you realize that. And you are looking at what we have and trying to develop that, because we're not gonna get anything else. We've been given this, and I really appreciate your initiative in that direction. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Means a great deal.
Appreciate it, Keith.
All right, well, y'all have a good evening. I'm gonna hit a conference call here in a little bit. It's been a crazy time, lack of sleep last night. I will tell you, I made it to all 33 precincts yesterday. By the time I finished, I think it was 251, and then I had to circle back around and pick up some signs, so it was about 360 miles, but I think it was 200 and, I can't remember what it was by the time I finished up in Dunedin with 7 minutes left. So we were able to hit all of them, and it was a fun day, just visiting the district and going around and seeing people, because I think that's what matters to all of you, and that's what matters most to me. So thank you all for what you do.
Appreciate it.
Look forward to continuing this relationship, and anything you need, let me know.
Absolutely.
All
Thanks,
right,
Keith.
y'all have a good night.
You as well.
Yeah.
All right, Board. Next up, we have the Middle Peninsula Northern Neck Behavioral Health Performance Contract. Amanda?
Hi, good evening.
Evening.
How is everyone?
Good.
Good. Thank you for having me here. So April asked me to come and answer any questions that you all had about the performance contract that was raised at the last Board of Supervisors meeting. There were some questions about the allocated amount per county. So what the state asked, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, that is our contract with them. It's a biennial contract, so this is for FY '26 and '27. So how it works is it explains our finances and then our services in that contract. It's a 400-page document, and that's why I provided a link and not the full document, so that you could go and look at it if you choose to. So as our state funds increase, if we get extra funds from the state or from the federal government, then the local match increases. It's a 10% match. The Essex match is 7.4% of that, is Essex. This year, our board of directors voted on a 3.5 increase for FY '27. That's what we'll be asking for next year. And that's because we've got extra funds for Marcus Alert and extra funds for permanent supportive housing. So as our state funds increase, the local match has to increase also with it.
And so, I know John's read at least half of this contract now, because he told me.
Oh, you have?
Got some questions for you.
That's very
So I'll let him
impressive,
answer.
yes.
But what determines our percentages? I mean, what?
Per capita, so it's by the citizens in the county, yes.
Okay,
So you're at 7.4%.
okay, so that makes sense.
Yes.
Go ahead, John. You studied it more than anybody else.
Yeah, just the information, Amanda, thank you for coming, appreciate you coming tonight. It showed that the local funding was for fiscal, but we're not, you don't need any additional funding now. This
No.
is for next year.
Yes.
Is what you're talking about, okay.
Yes.
So, because that's what
So
threw me,
this year,
because,
we're good, yes.
yeah, when you look at the financial summary, I just didn't see where the local match, there was nothing. It said zero and all that, and that confused me.
Yes, so that is our preliminary one. I do have the finalized one. Our finance director has to plug in some additional numbers. But nothing changed as far as a local match for you all
Okay.
with that is concerned. Let me find it. Here it is.
So we'll see this in our budget then, coming forward.
Yeah, I'll
That's
provide all
really-
that, yeah.
That was the big question. That's fine.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes.
Who
So
is
no.
who is our fiscal agent for this?
So our finance director is Ken Hickman for our agency. Is that what
Right.
you're asking?
No, I was just reading again in the
Yeah.
performance contract that it talked about a county fiscal agent. So who's that? Do you all you distribute the funds that you receive through your director then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So it's not like through another county? That's what
No.
I was, all right. A little confused with that.
Yes.
Contract term actually started July 1st, so I'm a little confused what we're doing. What do you need from us? If you've already signed the contract as of July 1st, what are we
Just- yes.
doing if the contract's already been signed? I don't understand
Yes.
what our part
Yes.
is.
Yes. I wish I could make it make sense for you. But I'm doing what the Department of Behavioral Health asks for me to do, and that's basically we get the contract, and then we have to send it out to the counties. And I don't mean any disrespect, but it's going to, it's going to be in
Not
effect either way, right?
Right.
So, yes, we're just.
I'm just also
yes.
curious, since it was already July 1st, that shouldn't this be, or they require that it be done?
Yes,
I'm not
and-
yelling at you either. I
No,
understand
no.
the system too,
Yeah.
so nothing personal here. Is that this should have been done 6 months ago?
Yes, but we don't even see it
know.
until, like, the summer. So, yeah, yes. There's some delays at the department.
Yeah.
Yes.
It just, again, it just seems to be unnecessary bureaucracy for us if it's a done deal already. So I just.
Yeah, and for me too, yes,
I'm-
I agree.
Yeah, it means extra work for you too that you don't need. So that may be something
But I
that your
get to come
board.
and see you all, so, that's.
Well, it's always good to see you
Yes,
too as
yes.
well. But that's something you might bring up to your board to see if that can be changed, because if it's not anything that really we have anything to do with. The contract is between you guys and contractors or whoever. So
Yes.
it doesn't make a lot of sense that we have no input, so, other than funding,
Yes,
so.
we have very little input too. So.
Okay, and they talk about Medicaid billing in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that everybody tries to, where we can, maximize the billing and
Oh, we
collecting
do,
of that
we're
before.
heavily reliant
Yeah.
on insurance,
Okay.
yes.
I love the sections on supplanting. We
Yes.
can't use their funds first, but that was just a different,
Yes.
and the local match is up to 10%, right? It doesn't ever exceed 10%.
Not in my knowledge,
Okay.
no. So if we have under the 10% match, which we actually did this year,
Mm-hmm.
we have to find in kind
Okay.
to meet the match.
Okay. I'm not sure if we get the year-end report every year. I've seen it maybe once or twice, but
I mean,
that's required in your performance agreement that we get this, and we don't see that, so it
I
would be
can make
nice to
sure
get
that-
that.
Sure. And just to let you know, this is my first week officially on the job, okay?
You're
Mandy,
doing
you don't-
amazing.
So I've been at the agency 25 years, so, I do have information, but just, if there's anything you need in the future, I will see that it
I
happens, okay?
fully expect my comments to be taken back and worked on. I'm
Yes,
not
they will be.
upset at all. Everybody in this room knows me pretty well. I'm not that type of person. It's just that I'm detailed-oriented,
No. Mm-hmm.
and these are just important things. One thing in there was about the performance dashboard,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's not online because it's something they are progressing to working toward, so.
But
that-
there should be a point in time where you can see it.
Let us know when
Sure.
that is, because, it's important for us as a board to know, to see that, as well as, for the public to see that as well, so.
Yes.
And there is no liability for the county on the activities of CSB. I know they have the insurances, I read that in
yes.
there, so
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure of that as well. So I guess that's good enough for us. You've done well. Thank you, Amanda. I
No
appreciate it.
problem, no
But,
problem. Any other questions?
So,
Bud, Cindy, have anything?
and thank you for clarifying the budget stuff. We'll
Of course.
I was
take
ready
that
to
in the
sign it
spring.
last month.
And there's nothing for us to sign, correct?
I mean, there is. Yes. It's just an acknowledgement. It's basically an
So just us
acknowledgement.
acknowledging that you told us what we have to pay?
Well, it's an acknowledgement that the things that
I
they
mean,
do
it's
and the
written
services they
nicer than
provide
that,
us.
but yeah.
So we don't want to belittle what they do.
No.
They do some
Yes.
great
No.
work, and we
Yes. Well, thank you for
appreciate
that,
that and
yes.
all. But,
Asking for the signature
yeah,
of
just
the
bring
clerk
that
of
back to the board, that going forward, it probably makes more sense if this is done before the July 1st deadline.
Yes, but we are dependent upon the Department of Behavioral Health to get it to us, and then our board has to approve it, and then, so, yes.
I understand that.
It's a timing issue.
Yeah, I'm one that doesn't like to sign something after the fact before I've had a chance to review it, and the fact that it's already done, I just personally take exception with that with any type of agreement, so,
I will pass that up to the department,
all right, thank you.
yes,
Other
probably.
than that, thank you for answering the questions.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Excuse me, do you need me at the 7 o'clock?
No.
No? All right, thank you so much.
What's going to be cool is Amanda's going to go back to our board meeting and say, they really read that thing.
I've been struggling to get through the whole thing.
It is not easy, I will tell you.
If I have any questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, community survey introduction. Brian, Tim,
All right, Carlos couldn't be here today, so I brought my subordinate, Tim,
The mayor of Port Royal.
to help me.
you got royalty.
Wow. Just kidding, kinda. Yeah, I think it's plugged in, Chuck.
All right. So the community livability survey, just one of those offbeat things that I was into, what makes a community tick, and how can we always do better? So this is a tool, it's a mechanism for us to kind of gauge where we're at. Everybody wants to live, work, play, and retire here, and so if you want them to do that, you gotta see where we're at and how we can do better, or if there's things that we can change. So we'll go ahead with so the idea is to understand how the residents perceive the community. The survey, what Carlos and I did was looked at the ICMA and a company called Pulco. We took their community livability measures and kind of adapted them to us, specifically for Essex. So it's a little bit different. If you were to look at a lot of the questions that they ask, it's generalized and it's over several localities. I mean, you can pick up different localities and see whoever does this community livability study or survey, and you'll see a lot of the questions are the same. We kind of adapted it to us. So this is more localized. This survey is put out so that the leadership can gauge what needs to be worked on, if anything. So we can find out what our services and also our programs, activities, all that kind of stuff. We can see where we're at. Let's see. For the department heads and leadership, once you get the results, that's where you can adapt and make changes. And I think that's the key. Other things are the comprehensive plan. While we're working on the comprehensive plan, this information will actually help us as we go forward with goals and objectives. And then some of the other things, and I'm going to take it from a Parks and Rec side, this is my past. Knowing what the public would like, it'll allow, if they want park amenities, for example, it'll allow the board to look at the capital improvement plan and say, hey, we need to incorporate ball fields into, or we need to incorporate basketball courts or whatever. So it helps you actually on the capital improvement side. And then the final thing is, the survey, doing it one time is not going to be overly helpful. I mean, it'll give you an initial gauge, but it's repeating it every couple of years where you can see, you can kind of track how you're doing. And so that's what we hope that we would go for going forward. All right. So this first slide is, these are just different questions or segments that they ask about. And so you can see safety, and then they'll ask a couple questions or a few questions, and you can kind of see what the response is. All right. Yeah, so this one was done in Williamsburg. You can see that they started in 2016, and the one that we pulled was from 2022. You can see the results and how they're doing either better or remaining the same. This one's from Cape Charles. This was actually taking short-term rentals, was a hot button for them at the time. And so this was one of their questions, or 3 questions, and then they've got the results. And how they adapt to it is, I'm not sure how they figured it all out as to what they wanted to do. All right, so on ours, these are all the segments that we have, or the topics. So if you did the whole survey, it would take about 54 minutes. What we've done is adapted it where you can answer actually individual sections or topics. And if you're interested in community design and that's it, that's all you have to do. So we've taken something that they usually fill out the whole thing and broken it down. And this will help, I think, y'all from the standpoint, if, for instance, let's see, Parks and Recreation, I'm gonna go back to that. Parks and Recreation, you find that we have an abundance of responses to that. That's gonna be a section you wanna really look at down the road. You know, how much more do we put into Parks and Recreation, or you may not get any responses for Parks and Recreation. Then you know that the level of interest is not as high as maybe thought. I'm not, oh, I should take that back. Parks and Recreation is the best thing in the world.
Spoken like a true
Yeah.
Parks and Rec guy.
All right, so this is one of the questions that we have in there. Would you like to see any of the following facilities come to Essex County? And this is regarding energy resources. So we list them, you do your answer, and then as you'll see in the responses, this was a test that we did. 5 out of the 15, 10 skipped it totally, and 5 responded. And you can see 2 said yes, 2 said no, and 1 right down the middle. So again, it offers that gauge as to the interest.
Now, important thing to point out here is, and for citizens watching this, if you're filling out the poll, you're not gonna see your results as you click on these things. That'll be for
That'll be at the end.
statistical
Right.
tabulation at the end.
At the very end.
This is just shown on the right-hand side, that right-hand slide, to show you what the data will begin to populate as staff develop it.
All right, so as far as reaching out to the public, obviously the county website, Facebook, and other social media. We'll check with the schools and see if we can send it through, or somehow send it through the parents, or send it through the children to the parents. We'd like to put announcements on the newspaper and the radio. We will get information out through flyers at the post office or hospital or anywhere we can. The email list is going to be important because a lot of the folks have email lists that are in depth, so it helps us. And then the printed placemats, well, that's far out, but if we could do it, that'd be great. It was an idea. And then we'll also put it out, we will have hard copies here and at the library for folks that don't have access to computers.
Yeah, and on that note, it can be filled out in paper too. If somebody
Yes.
doesn't have web access or whatever, there's a paper version, they can do it in paper, that will still be computed.
And interestingly, the paper version is of each section. So it's not, oh my gosh, I got the 20 pages. They can actually take just that one page. All right, so that one slide that we had some information about 15, that was actually done through department heads when we were trying to make sure that the questions that were being asked were helpful. And so that's where that response came from. Our goal is to start hopefully tomorrow and then put it out until January, the end of January. What Carlos and I had talked about was that, you know, with the holidays, we're not sure how many people are gonna really get involved, so we wanted to skip it over to have it go through January. Let's see. Oh, and at the very end, the results will be compiled, that information will go out, and again, all confidentiality will be maintained as promised. So, we're open for questions, I think. Oh, yes, it's a random sample. There's no statistics on this. And the reason being, the ones that respond today or tomorrow or through January, we can't guarantee that in 2 years they'll be the same people. And so it's really hard to make sure it's statistically correct. So
Are you going to capture any demographics with this?
So, yes, we do have demographics. Our questions in the demographics are very basic. There is one that gets more personal, and the one that is personal is about if you're interested in a particular topic and would like to participate in any kind of discussions or anything like that that the county would hold, we can send them information of how to get back in touch with us. So it's private. It doesn't go out to everybody. It's not a blanket, oh, so-and-so signed up for this. Nobody knows that except in-house.
I'm just thinking as you capture the data, if we know at least a region that they may be in, maybe it's a district, also age range, are we hearing from seniors, are we hearing from youth, are we hearing from working adults? So some age bands in there to capture that would be highly beneficial, so you can see, are we only getting comments from, 20 to 30-year-olds in the South District? Or is it more widespread, so we can know, and my other question was gonna be, does it, and if not, does it make sense that we utilize some kind of smart technology? For example, the one question that you had, it said, solar, for example. Well, it depends where it's located. Whereas if they selected that option, it could lead to another question. To say, well, where do you think it should be located, and pick one of those. I don't know if your survey technology has that, and I know it's available.
Yeah, I think I have to be honest, we're trying to keep it somewhat general, that we didn't get right in the true weeds of, and we're using your solar, oh, it's this district and here. We didn't want to get into that. Is there general interest in solar? If we find that there is, that's up to the board to say, to take it further. Because I think we can always go back and ask those questions down the road. I think now is the time just to see what the overall interest is. Just generally, where are we at?
Okay, I can agree with that. I'm thinking for the comprehensive plan, that if somebody does say, I want solar, clearly not in the south. So where?
So one of the things about this, what they call it, 1, 2, 3, the survey method is we can actually take the results, and if there is a particular question, we can fire that back out. So I think the technology is there for us to do that.
So you'll capture email address, you can try to capture some demographics when you do this?
Only if the respondent says that they want their information, let's see, contained, but not distributed.
Right, I think if they want to participate in future surveys about the topics here, that could be a
Yes.
question, they can include their email address, that way those same people can get
Yes.
notified of those.
That's correct.
Tim,
But
I have a
wonder if we
question.
could add.
I'm
that-
sorry?
Does it allow statements where you can answer yes or no, like, I would like to see solar in my county, disagree or agree, or I disagree with this type of business in my locality?
See, this is the part I love. I love the questions.
Because people
Yeah, so.
might not be aware of a district or region, but say, I'm opposed to X, Y, and Z, or I don't strongly disagree with this statement.
Yeah, so at the end of each of these sections, there is you're allowed, I think, up to 1,000, not words, but what do they call it?
Characters.
Characters, thank you.
Good.
You can tell it's beyond me.
I think it's helpful to have, I mean, we want to get that community input.
Get something customized.
And then start gathering the data and putting it together, so I think it's great.
Or should we ask, though?
Oh, do you
try
want to see
find-
the
just-
2-minute,
Yeah, we've got a,
2-minute slide, presentation by
Carlos is
Carlos?
so photogenic, he created a
Yes.
2-minute
you
tutorial
mind?
for people who, don't be afraid. We'll just show you the basics of it. When you're on the website and you get into the survey portal, you can watch a demo of the community survey, and I'll just show you a site.
Hi, this is Carlos, and I'm going to be giving a brief.
And basically, I'll stop it there, but basically, he goes through 2 minutes of taking you through how to get into the survey and get started, and then from there, it's kind of intuitive, so. Just in case somebody says, 56 minutes, it's pretty simple.
Would it be ADA compliant? Is there an option for that? It's on the website, and there are those requirements to address ADA conditions.
Good question.
I'll just say this, I think
Can you find out?
we beat that threshold, but, that date, but, obviously, we don't want to eliminate anybody. I think our goal is to reach out to as many people. We would love to get 500 responses, seriously. And I've said this before on surveys, I almost rather hear from folks that typically don't do surveys, because those are the opinions we never hear. You always hear from everybody that, oh, I love surveys. It's the people that typically don't. And we would ask y'all to distribute it to whomever, y'all's groups.
And one final question with that, is it limited, meaning, would I be able to take the same survey 5 times?
That was one of my questions.
Because that could be problematic as well.
Yeah, again, not being scientific or statistically measured, yeah, if you're interested in taking the survey 5 times, have at it. I don't know who would do it, but yes, it could be done. It could be done. I think one of the thoughts we had was, well, what if I did one section this time and came back and did another section another time? Yeah, so you're gonna get double hit on the demographic side,
But it'd be according to a different section, so that.
but a different section.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see anybody going, I'm gonna do the same section 5 times to get my answers. I just don't see that.
Oh, you
Yeah,
don't
so
know
it's
people-
not true census.
No.
Yeah. A census
People
is,
that may be opposed to solar may go in there and have some automated system that goes there and answers it no
Oh, my gosh.
1,000 times. I'm
No,
being
no,
the pessimist,
yeah.
but I mean, that's one of the things you have
It's
to look at.
realistic.
But you would think that you could capture an IP address with the survey and
Yeah.
utilize that as a differentiating factor.
I won't respond to that. I'll let Carlos.
Or maybe that's a question for Chuck.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
is a bot capable of filling it out?
I want it to be right. I
No,
like
no,
what you guys
I
are doing.
agree.
Like
The survey tools I've used in the past, you can limit submissions by IP address. So if an IP address submits once, it can never submit again. There are a few problems with that. One of the biggest one is if you work at an organization like here, we have one IP address that the outside world sees. So if I take the survey, nobody else that works at the county offices would be able to take the survey while they're here on our network. And IP addresses can change. It depends on the setting of your ISP and things like that. But it's not a super accurate way to determine location or, anything really. But I would advise to not limit it by IP address. That's just my take on it.
See what happens.
Yeah, I think if we see something that's abnormal, we cut it off and rethink.
I know there's a checkbox you can say, I'm not a robot. That's one way to keep from what Rob had brought up, somebody just setting up a automatic system. I don't know how hard that would be. I'd like to see a question on there about, are you a resident or are you not a resident? Because I don't think the way you've got it set up, there's any way to just keep it to Essex residents. And the other thing is that you really want to know is, are you a resident or do you own property in Essex County? Because there probably might be somebody who doesn't live here, or maybe it's a second home for that matter. They're gonna have a different perspective on some things, and that might be good demographic data to capture, like Rob had brought up,
And I will tell you, we do have that in there.
okay?
It's broken down.
Good.
I'm a resident of Tappahannock proper, and I'm a landowner, or I'm a non-resident.
Okay, good.
Non-resident, the reason we put that in there is that helps us capture thoughts on how people perceive the county and Tappahannock itself when they come in.
Tourist, I mean.
Yeah, the tourist,
And
that's who
that's
we're-
important to capture, I got
And
that.
it's an area. So I think that was our whole game plan as well, is that we're getting it from all different perspectives.
I don't know if you have a gender question in there besides age. Sometimes it's nice to see, again, to get your demographics, that if you have, say, females that are interested in hunting, could be an interesting information to develop something. Or, mountain biking, you may see that response coming more from a male side, I don't know, but you might find out some very interesting things just knowing by gender and age.
And gender
So-
is in there.
That gender is in there, okay, good. So, I'm done.
Yeah, we were pretty,
Okay.
I think we were thorough on what we asked for, and it wasn't to guide people to answer a certain way. It
Right.
was,
No.
again, very generalistic on. What we did do, I will say this, unlike any of the other community surveys, we did ask about agriculture and forestry part of it, which is very unusual. And so we got into the farmer's market. You know, would you like to see a year-round farmer's market, or is it the 6 months or 7 months good, or we're asked all those questions.
Bud?
No questions. I took the survey.
Cindy?
I'm good.
Appreciate it, guys. Looks good.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next, we have VDOT issues and concerns. Coleman's Island, Island Farm, Bud, I think you wanted this on here.
Yeah, last Friday, while we were being judged on our outfits for Halloween, Tim and I kind of bumped into each other in the hallway, and we got to talking about the flooding down at Coleman Island, and Island Farm Road also. And Tim lives just past the part where it really gets underwater pretty deep. And he was telling me that sometimes it's 15 to 17 inches of water across that highway there, that little road. And we were trying to figure out how we could do something, because we know the state's not gonna just come in there and build the road up. They don't have the money or anything else to do it with, evidently. But Tim suggested that we ask VDOT to put in a gauge, a level gauge of how deep the water is inside the area where it floods. And I think it's a good idea, and I think it would apply also to Island Farm Road. Once you cross a bridge going on to Island Farm, during nor'easters or storms of high tides, that floods also. So, I don't know, we just kind of knocked it around, and Tim and I would think it'd be a great idea to put up those signs that would have a gauge that shows how deep the water is above the highway. Tim was telling me that people have flooded out trying to get home, and that's not what you want to hear from people going back and forth to home. And I know that on Island Farm Road, if you go down there last week, you'd see about a half dozen cars on the side of the road on this side of the bridge. So just a thought. Of course, we got the biggest problem up on Highway 17 coming north. Last week, that was flooded at just about every day, and there's a problem. That's a problem they can fix. They can raise that up, but I'm not sure on these side roads that they'd be interested in doing it. Probably not only cost prohibitive, but they don't have the space to expand out to build up and have a shoulder that, you wouldn't drop off into the creek. So just food for thought. If anyone's interested, I'd like to see something done to alleviate part of the situation. Can't alleviate the water, but at least we can let people know how much water they got to deal with.
I think it's a good idea to request it from VDOT if they have something like that, even if we have to put it in, but
Yeah.
let them, I can't imagine it's very expensive to put some kind of, gauge, so you can gauge the water when you go across.
Yeah. So, that's me.
Board members agree with that?
Safety is number one.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. Well, with that, that finishes up our work session items, so ask somebody to read us into closed session.
I move that Essex County Board of Supervisors convene in closed meeting pursuant to Code of Virginia, Section 2.2, 3711A1, for discussion, assignment, and appointment of appointees to Agriculture and Forestry Board, Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, Jail Authority, Middle Peninsula Chesapeake Bay Public Essex Authority, Middle Peninsula Juvenile Detention Commission, Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission, Rappahannock River Basin Committee, Virginia Peninsula Public Service Authority, and the Community Policy Management Team. And pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A3 for discussion and/or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and the disposition of public held real property where discussion is in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the board related to the purchase agreement, lease and use agreements, a potential property acquisition and public facilities, and pursuant to section 2.2 3711A8 for consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters regarding the provision of legal advice by such counsel relating to demands, agreements, and real estate transactions.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're in closed session. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn back into open session?
So move.
Second?
Moved and properly seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Somebody read the, April, you do a roll call, please?
Chairman Akers.
Present?
Supervisor Johnson.
Here.
Supervisor Magruder.
Here.
Supervisor Smith.
Present?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Read the compliance certification.
Okay, whereas the Essex County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed session on this date pursuant to an affirmation recorded vote and in accordance with the provision of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas section 2.2 3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed session was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, there be it resolved that the board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, one only public business matter lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the requirement of Virginia law were discussed in closed session to which this certification resolution applies. And two, only such public business matter as were identified in the motion by which the closed session was convened, was heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the board.
Any member who believes that there was a departure from the requirements of clauses 1 and 2 shall state the substance of the departure that in his judgment has taken place. Hearing none, April, will you poll the members?
Chairman Akers.
I certify.
Supervisor Johnson.
I certify.
Supervisor Magruder.
I certify.
Supervisor Smith.
Certify.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
We're adjourned our closed session. Gentlemen, need a quick break?
Yeah.
Give us a 7-minute break, and we'll start back up at 7:07. Seems like